Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here with a hot take. Yes, it's time for me to officially weigh in on the Dereck Chauvin trial, otherwise known as the George Floyd trial, I guess you could call it. The guy who kneed on George Floyd is on trial for murder, and there's lots of stuff happening. Everybody's covering it, but I think we all know where this is going to cause a riot in Minneapolis. No matter what the outcome, it's not going to matter. It's not going to satisfy people. Nothing short of, and I wouldn't endorse this in any way, but nothing short of throwing Dereck Chauvin to the mob of angry protesters would satisfy them. They're going to riot unless the Minneapolis PD locks the place down for days, which they probably won't do because they are ruled by very weak-willed politicians who think they can appease these people. They can't. Big leagues politics. Again, some of these sources I'm not too keen on. Big league, very hyperbolic, but it says New York Times begins to dox Dereck Chauvin jurors as the murder case falls apart. Again, this is a little hyperbolic. They're not really doxing them. To me, doxing them means they're giving out their names and phone numbers and addresses. They are giving out some personal information about the jurors. But this is the information that, as far as I can see, is publicly available. Like their race and sort of general things, who they are. Like, you know, a white intensive care nurse who said if she saw someone in the street who needed help, she would feel obligated to step in. A black grandmother who said she had no personal experience with the police or the criminal justice system. I mean, that to me is not really doxing. Yes, it's giving out some information, which, you know, you could argue it could intimidate the jurors, but I don't think so. I don't think so. There's no chance. Like, absolutely none that these jurors are going to stay secret. No way. I would be extremely reluctant to be on. I just wouldn't be on this juror. I would get myself thrown off in a heartbeat. I would just say something political. I could just point to my YouTube videos and they'd probably throw me right off. I mean, because I wouldn't want to deal with this. No way. Absolutely not. So I don't blame these people for wanting to get out of it. So who's going to stay on the jury? The people tending to be, oh, we're going to get that cop. So because they'll come out and tell everybody who they are and go on Good Morning America, and they'll be lauded as a hero. Yeah, I put that evil cop away. So just calm down, big league politics. You're not helping things. Tearful witness regrets not doing more to possibly save George Floyd, and this is a video playing some of the case. This is NBC News. So again, they're the other way. They can't wait to play up the race card. The teenage bystander who recorded a viral video of George Floyd's death, broke down in tears on the witness stand Tuesday, saying he regrets not doing more to possibly save his life. Well, that's a shame. But, I don't think he could have done anything. First off, he's a teenager. What he did was videotape it, which I think was good. I think it was good he taped this. Because, we have the evidence. And even though it got used in such a way to stir people up, we can see what happened to Floyd. We can see what a wreck he was if you go to the early videotape. He couldn't do anything. The cops would have stopped him. He just would have made everything worse. So, and as always, NBC News looking to get that sweet, sweet rage click. Your tears taste like money. That's what I see the NBC News people like. Breitbart, Van Jones. If Chauvin not convicted in Floyd trial, America will be in a dangerous position. Van Jones, look, we all know how this is going to go. For political reasons, Chauvin will probably get something. It won't matter how long he's convicted, because first off, there'll be appeals if he's convicted of anything, and if he gets off, there'll be a riot. If he goes to jail, there'll be a riot, because there still won't be enough of a conviction here. And judging by the evidence, as I've heard it, there's no way. I wouldn't vote to convict this guy. Not in a second. Nolte, Democrat-run city residents prepare for Dereck Chauvin verdict. Yeah, it's probably going to be nasty. Here's what I see. Okay, and again, this is all secondhand information from videos I watch. I watch the Lotus Eaters talk about it. You know, Chauvin and the other cops came in. Floyd tried to pass off a counterfeit bill, apparently. He was on drugs. He had heart problems. He had COVID. According to the autopsy. Apparently he was acting erratically. They called the cops. He got into his car, a Mercedes, I believe an SUV Mercedes, which, you know, I'm just like, how did he afford that's an incredibly expensive car. And I don't know if the guy was working. So, anyhow, he's got this incredibly expensive car. He's got his girlfriend there. He can't drive because he's so out of it. I don't know what the girlfriend was doing. She tried to call for a ride. So I guess she was effed up too, that she couldn't drive, or he wouldn't let her drive his car. You know, so how messed up do you have to be to go, ooh, I'm going to pass this fake $20 bill at a deli, but first I'm going to get all effed up on fentanyl, so I'll be too effed up to drive. So I'm going to turn in this bill to get a sandwich or whatever he bought in the deli, and then we're going to try to make the getaway before I'm too high to drive. So, I mean, the guy's messed up. He just doesn't care, in my view. The guy was just messed up. He doesn't care. He makes all his problems, everybody's problems around him. He's got a girlfriend. You know, all these guys have girlfriends. Ladies, what are you doing? I mean, seriously, you can't change these guys. What are you doing, ladies? Why is it that guys like George Floyd always have girlfriends? They all have girlfriends. I guess it's the free drugs. I guess it's the fact they tend to be unemployed guys, drug addicts, and have all the time to, you know, seduce you. I don't know. What is it? Why do you shack up with these guys? I just don't get it. Anyhow, the cops come, and I've seen the full-length video. They're trying to be very reasonable with him, but George Floyd's out of his mind. And George Floyd's the one that requested, please take me out of the car, put me on the ground, and they do that. Now, Chauvin kneels on his neck, which, when I saw the video, I had the same reaction most people did. Oh my God, he's kneeling on his neck. He's killing him. But that's the way he was trained to do. The police department, if anything, is at fault because they trained him to do that. Now, today, according to the Lotus Eaters, who were reading off the facts, the autopsy showed that he did not asphyxiate from that. That apparently Chauvin applied the move correctly. That he didn't bruise his neck or cut off his circulation. There would have been signs in the autopsy. So it sounds to me like Chauvin did exactly what he was trained to do. It's just that Floyd died before the ambulance really got there and could save him. They couldn't save him. They weren't doctors. They were just there over a counterfeit dollar bill. That's it. And Floyd is the one who took the drugs. And the other tidbit of information I didn't know, they found crumbs of meth or fentanyl, they're not sure, with Floyd's saliva on it. So there's a moment in the video where he's got like a white piece of something in his mouth. So they think he threw the rest of his stash in his mouth and crunched it up and tried to eat it before the cops came, which may have been the overdose. Some of it may have fallen out of his mouth in the process. So Sounds to me like the guy killed himself. And then in the process of dying, made it everybody's problem. Because this was a guy, in my view, just my personal opinion, who didn't take responsibility for anything. And this is coming from a guy who's not exactly great at taking responsibility for himself, but, you know, but when you're a drug addict, I mean, it's way worse. It's way worse. So, I mean, I didn't want the guy to die. I don't think Chauvin wanted him to die. Certainly none of those cops did. It's more paperwork. The guy wasn't attacking him. They were trying to help him. Where's the malicious intent here? Where's all the racism I've heard about? I don't see it. So if the jurors, unless they're caught up in it, unless they're too afraid, I think he's going to get off, which is probably the best situation anyway, because there's going to be a riot. So let's say they, at worst, negligent manslaughter, with probation. Like, that's something they would give to a cop, right? Like, well, you went a little too far. He shouldn't have died in your custody, but we're not going to throw you in jail. But we're going to give you we're going to fire you, no pension, give you 6 months probation, something like that. Like, that is the most I could see them giving him, unless the judge and process is completely corrupt. So let's say they give him like 3rd-degree murder, which is, I think that's a slightly above manslaughter, I'm not sure. 3rd-degree murder. He gets 10 years in jail. They'll riot. Oh, they will riot. They will riot, because that won't be enough. They want him, short of death row. Like if they convicted him of 1st-degree premeditated murder and put him on death row, you might not have a riot. Maybe. But even then, I think you're going to have a massive protest with stuff happening. I think you might have a party in the street if that happened, which would then turn into a riot. Because the people who are doing the protesting are idiots. They're dummies. The one thing I'll say about the hippies back in the day is they at least knew their stuff. They at least understood what was at stake and who the enemy was up to a point. Now, I didn't agree with everything the hippies did, but, they had a ideology that was mostly peaceful. They wanted everybody to get along and live in communes. That was unrealistic, but they didn't want people to go to war. They didn't see any reason for people to be drafted and thrown into, the meat grinder in Vietnam. So there was some sense of understanding there. Not really, not super nuanced, but some. And even some of the hippies sounded mildly libertarian, and a few of them still live on communes today. They really put their money where their mouth is. A lot of them just went on and said, oh, F this, I'm done with this, and became parents and soccer moms, and then went on to have big businesses and become everything they hate. That happens, I think, to most people. But these protesters are just dumb. They're just so dumb. They're idiots. They have no sense of proportion or anything. I mean, it's the same thing with the LA riots. Those people were dumb to riot. They got mad and it got out of hand really, really quickly, and a bunch of people got hurt that had nothing to do with Rodney King. Nothing. Nothing to do with Rodney King. And Rodney King didn't want the riots. And it's a shame, because there are people who genuinely are railroaded by the cops. But because those people weren't picked up by the mainstream media on that particular day, because the mainstream media is just a tool of people in politics, and they just needed some narrative to push, just happened to be George Floyd. There were plenty of people, even during that year, I'm sure you could find dozens who were wrongly assaulted, killed by the police. But, you know, journalists are the most lazy people I've ever met. They really are. Most of them, 99% of them, most of them. There's a handful that are amazing. Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald, Tim Pool. I just marvel at all the work they do. Everybody else, they don't do the work. You know, they just don't do the work. Now, I'm not a journalist. I don't consider myself a journalist, but I understand the work involved in finding out information. I don't want to do it, but I understand it. I'm better at making up stuff. So yeah, Dereck Chauvin should probably just go free. They probably shouldn't even brought him to trial, quite frankly. Probably would have been better not to bring him to trial, because then the rioting would have already happened. It would have already, you know, they could have announced it closer to the summer of hell, and it would have already been over. You know, we would have already been past it. Now it's just going to be all brought up again. And, you know, we got to rely on the Biden administration to deal with it. And he's just going to be terrible at it. You know, if he comes out and makes a statement, he's going to try to be sympathetic to the protesters regardless of the announcement, and then might say, you know, further step in it more by saying, oh, well, you know, we'll have our own investigation into the investigation to make sure it was proper. Because that's something he would do, I think. So, get out of Minnesota is what I would say. Minneapolis, get out of there. Get out of that city. It can't get better. Not right now. No. And the media is just going to harp on this. They have nothing else to talk about. Literally. So, that's my take on George Floyd. Feel free to lambaste me in the comments, as you often do. So, it is what it is. You know? There are people who've been unjustly killed by the cops. I don't think George Floyd was one of them. I just don't.